What do you think of the appeals court ruling when they denied you, I guess, your appeal?
The Supreme Court, yeah.
Excuse me, let's go back a little bit further.
Okay.
When the appeals court denied your appeal.
Okay, you're talking about the Nebraska Supreme Court? Or,
yes.
Okay, because I don't ever go to the appeals court, the lower one before the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Because it's under Death St. John, I go to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
I think they've been getting it wrong. I mean, they're making a judgment call on evidence that hasn't had a full hearing. I haven't had a full hearing to be able to put forward and be able to put Neeson on the stand and cross-examine him, and for the judge to actually sit there and see him testify and judge his credibility and stuff like that. They're basing their judgment on a document that, they haven't had a chance to actually, sit down and talk with the individual and see him cross-examine and ask multiple questions about, what's in the affidavit, what other roommates of his have said, and all the other stuff that we have collected throughout the, this period of time of, 16 years since I was sentenced to death.
Did you ever testify against Marvin Neeson?
No, I testified on my own behalf at my trial.
Why didn't you testify against him?
Because I would not have had anything to testify against him about. I mean, I was not involved in the crime, so I can't. I would have been up there if I would have get up there and testify and try to say that I seen him do something or whatever. I'd been perjuring myself to say something like that.
How did that make you feel when he got up there and said that it was you that committed the crime?
Well, I kind of saw the writing on the wall of what he was doing. I mean, it was clear from the very beginning when he placed my name in the mix and was blaming everything on me, what he was doing. I mean, it was essentially the first statements that he made where he was, saying that I committed the crime and I did everything. He was just essentially there as a witness and my essentially chauffeur driver or whatever. It was essentially he was trying to take everything off of him and essentially try to get away from the crime. Because if he gets away from the crime, well, the only way I get convicted is if he was to get up on the stand and testify against me. So essentially he walks away, and that's the way I looked at it. And then later on, he tried to make a deal with the prosecutor, and he let him know prior to his trial he'll plead guilty to 3 second degrees, but he let him know right then and there, that he has no testimony to give to me against me. So he let him know he had nothing to give you. And then they said no. They took him to trial, and they went after, wanting to get that first degree conviction. So they had that death penalty over him. And as soon as they had that death penalty over him, they had him convicted. Then the next thing you know, they're threatening him. They're on him day after day, threatening him with the death penalty. And his lawyer was just as much involved with that as well, because he, if you went back in the record, you see he filed a motion to get rid of his attorney, because his attorney was doing the same thing the prosecutor was doing, was sitting there constantly on him saying, I can't keep you away from the death penalty. So he done the one thing that he felt that he had to do to get away from the death penalty, which was to get up there and testify and say whatever they wanted him to say against me to get away from the death penalty, and that's what he did.
Why do you think he changed his story?
I think with time, I think he has always been trying to tell the truth, from the moment that he told the lie. I don't know, I know that the evidence has been there, they had the stuff, they just chose to ignore it, and he was allowed to get up there and, say what he had, to get away from the death penalty. And I think that over time, I think it did. And I still think that he would have kept on, and I think there's a lot of roommates out there that he's said stuff that haven't came forward, But the thing is that the only reason we ended up getting this 2007 affidavit is because he finally told somebody he couldn't just brush off, and the prosecutors couldn't just brush off. This last guy that he told, was a counselor that worked for the Department of Corrections, so he was somebody that the prosecutors couldn't. And that information was turned over to them, which the prosecutors turned over to us. They didn't have no obligation to turn that over to us, but they turned it over to us because they felt it was clearly an important document to be able to turn over to us.